Welcome back to Arise Prime Time. I'm Charles Aniagolu. So, another attempt to strengthen the legal framework governing elections in Nigeria, a framework that's been revealed to contain lots of weaknesses, including delays in the release of funds for elections, disputes over the voters' register, conflicting interpretations of the method of results transmission, and the weak enforcement of electoral offences. The new legislation, which was sponsored by the chairman of the Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, Senator Simon Lalong of the APC, also seeks to enhance the independence of the Electoral Commission (INEC) by insulating it from political interference and government control. During the debate, the former governor of Bayelsa State, Senator Seriaki Dickson, who's a member of the Committee on Electoral Matters, suggested, among other things, that the amendment should empower INEC to determine the true winner of the elections and thereby check the excesses of political parties. Just one of many things he suggested. So can these politicians be trusted to put in the work that's needed for this country's elections to achieve full transparency?
The burden of proof in electoral matters, Mr. President, must shift to INEC. That is where it rightly and properly belongs. We should not subject it to the normal evidential rule that says he who alleges must prove. How can you prove something you don't even know? INEC is the electoral body conducting elections. INEC appoints people, a candidate and party has no control over them. INEC does whatever they do, juggle figures and announce. Do cancellations, they explain to no candidate, they explain to no party.
Senator Seriaki Dickson. Well, for more on this, I'm joined now on the line from Lagos, by that leading opposition PDP member of the National Assembly, Senator Henry Seriaki Dickson, CON, who governed Bayelsa State for 8 years and who is a member of the Senate Committee on Electoral Matters. Senator, thank you very much indeed for joining us, and apologies, we were supposed to start the program with you, but unfortunately the gremlins of technology gobbled up our lines and we were not able to do so. So your patience is appreciated. Where do things stand at the moment?
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, my friend.
Sure. Where do things stand at the moment with the work that's going on at the Senate with this Electoral Act amendment?
Well, thank you. That's part of what I and my colleagues are in Lagos, and we spend the entire day discussing amongst ourselves, arguing, agreeing, and disagreeing, which is what we're elected to do, but doing so at all times in the national interest. We've been doing that since morning. As you can probably observe, my voice is also not is cracked a little bit because I had the honor of being asked to preside and coordinate the joint retreat. And we have had over 50 members of the National Assembly, senators and members of the House. Well-attended retreat, made up of members of the committee from both chambers, and a lot of enthusiasm, and which was very good. It speaks to the readiness of the National Assembly to see that the comprehensive reform, an exhaustive reform, is carried out. It speaks to the sensitivity of individual members who understand the yearnings of their constituents. I mean, of all Nigerians who want to see a reformed electoral system so that our elections do not, as I said on the floor, belittle our country. I mean, elections should be moments where we rediscover ourselves as a nation and celebrate what is best. But it shouldn't belittle us, where people kill and maim, where people write non-existent figures, claim to win elections without the mandate of the people, by subverting the sovereignty, you know. So we want to see how far we can.
Right. I think we're having a bit of a challenge with the connection to Lagos, and I do sorely apologize. This is beyond our control because obviously sometimes the lines that connect us, the video lines and so on, they get interrupted by weather patterns, by all kinds of things which are completely beyond our control. We shall try to establish connection. Can you hear me, Senator? I think it looks like you're back there. We lost you for a minute.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, please,
yes.
Please continue. Okay, well, I'm afraid he's disappeared again. but I mean, it's a very sort of treacherous line, if you ask me. But he's frozen on the big screen. I think some of the really important things, because I mean he's one of the people who raised a lot of these things, but also it wasn't just him. There were, I mean, a lot of others, and his contention is that there appeared to be some kind of consensus amongst both the senators and the members of the House of Representatives that root and branch reform is needed, and that it's time to restore some kind of trust and confidence in the electoral system in this country. And I'm sure the new INEC chairman, Electoral Commission chairman, Professor Joash Amupitan, will be very happy to hear that, because that would certainly strengthen his hand and make his job slightly easier. There are, of course, a lot of issues that were raised, and I'm told reliably that the senator is back again. Senator, apologies for that, but we're having problems with the line. But let's try and get as much as we can from you while we can. Just give us some of the high point. What are some of the big areas of reform that are not only being discussed, but appear to be supported by a majority of your fellow senators?
Well, like I was saying, we've spent the whole day here in Lagos discussing amongst ourselves, arguing, agreeing and disagreeing, but doing so at all times in the national interest. And I was saying that there's a lot of enthusiasm. Over 50 members of the National Assembly who are members of the joint team were here. And we just rose, you know, from morning till now. And my voice is cracking a little bit because I had the honor of being asked to coordinate and chair the joint retreat. I mean, moderating and so on and so forth. But it was very lively, very engaging, and members were all full of ideas. And we are united across party lines. There are no party divisions here. Across party lines, we are united in ensuring that we address some of the key areas that will enable INEC, the parties, and all voters and every participant to work together to ensure that the results are better and that elections do not reduce the country or belittle our democracy and our country as they currently have been doing. Killings and then disputes, okay? Propaganda about election results. If someone has truly won an election, then that mandate should not be diminished, okay? If somebody has lost an election, that person should know that he or she has truly lost. So we want to see how the electoral system is reorganized. I mean, the legal framework is reorganized. Then the oversight mechanisms are strengthened, and more funding provided. And INEC itself being put in a position where it can perform this very sensitive national duty for all of us. I mean, you can't talk of a democracy if you can't at least strive to have free and fair elections. And that's what we are debating here.
Well, absolutely. I have to say, it sounds very, very encouraging listening to you there. But then the very skeptical Nigerians who've been let down repeatedly by their politicians would say that you're probably saying that because you're an opposition politician, and they wonder whether or not your voice resonates with the other people who are not in your party and who are not opposition politicians. But let's not get bogged down in that. Let's kind of break down some of the things, because one of the things that was talked about during that debate, which we saw in the Red Chamber, was the issue of electronic voting and the electronic transmission of results and so on. And a lot of people seem to think that that has to be the way forward. But then a lot of people who were making comments on your Twitter page when you kind of put out that information, we're wondering what happens in the remote towns and villages that are not hooked up to the national grid and have no internet penetration. How are they going to generate results in real time? There was also talk of calls for local and state collation centers to be scrapped, because allegedly that's where they cancel results if a preferred candidate is losing. I wonder what your assessment of all of that is.
Well, I can give my views, my views as a Nigerian and also as a senator of the. Obviously, what we have been doing here, the discussions at the committee or joint committee levels, do not constitute the view of the National Assembly. No, and I want us to be clear about it. And so I'm not going to speak more about that, about what we have been discussing here and the various themes that we are considering. That will be done when we finish at the committee levels.
Yeah, I'm afraid that monster is back. I thought he was just nibbling at our toes. Now he's gobbling our legs and our thighs as well, which is rather depressing, isn't it? But the senator was making a lot of sense there, and it's really a shame that the line isn't holding up. He was talking, I was going to ask him next about the issue of politicians defecting from a party that they used to win an election to another one, because that's obviously a big thing in Nigeria at the moment, where we've seen a horde of politicians just picking up and crossing over to another party and retaining their positions in contravention, many Nigerians believe, of the constitutional provisions. There are calls for this to be stopped, and that if they want to defect, they'd have to resign their positions and recontest under the banner of the new party. I don't know what kind of resonance that is getting in the National Assembly, because, of course, within their ranks, those pictures we're looking at are quite a lot of people who've defected and who probably would not want to lose their positions. So whether or not they would support something like that, which obviously is what a lot of Nigerians would like to see happen, is another question altogether. So I was going to ask him what sort of reception that is getting in the Senate. There was also talk of regulating the primaries of political parties so that they can be conducted much more transparently. But I would imagine that would be something of a challenge in a country where the political parties appear to be seething with impropriety, all aimed at subverting the law and the will of the people. So that's something I would have quite liked to. Okay, there he is. He appears to be back again. Senator, I'm afraid this is a game of pat ball. Now you're on, now you're off. Now we see you, now we don't see you. But there was, let me just quickly gallop ahead, because we've only got about 5 or 6 minutes left. There's been talk of the issue of politicians defecting from a party to the other, defecting from a party they used to win an election to another one. And of course, we've just seen your governor in Bayelsa State not so much defecting, but resigning from the People's Democratic Party and seeming to be waiting in the wings to move on to another party. Can you hear me at all? Because you seem to be fiddling with your earpiece there. I wonder what you think of that.
Well, I can.
Yeah, let me let you. You understand the question, so just go ahead. Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you, Charles, about the generally the issue of politicians defecting. I made a statement concerning developments in my state, and I don't want to say anything new about that. I believe that as we move on, there may be an occasion for me to make more further statements. Okay, for now, I've made my views on that clearly to indicate that I'm not in support of that, and that's not my direction for now, and I think that is sufficient for now. But all of it, we have spoken generally, and my views about people defecting generally is out there, and that's my view. That's my view. Okay, we may need to rework the laws and the Constitution and prescribe consequences and so on to do it, while at the same time we emphasize greater respect for values and principles, because public service is beyond serving oneself. That will come with time, but maybe we'll have to take another look at the Constitution and the Electoral Act and the other laws. And all these are sentiments that found expression on the floor and because of our committee work here. But like I said, a big project here, reform at the committee level. And I'm sure by the time we finish, when it goes to the plenary, and then Nigerians will get to know what we are dealing with. We can only express, individual opinion.
Right. Okay. The line has dropped once again, which is rather regrettable. But anyway, I think we understand much of what he was saying. And let me just quickly run through the other issues that have come up at that came up during that debate here in Abuja. He is, of course, in Lagos, as you said, attending a retreat. But the other issues that came up that were raised by some of the other senators included, beyond the issue of politicians defecting, there was talk about regulating the primaries of political parties. There was talk about INEC officials who facilitate the compromise or sabotage of the elections. Some have suggested that sabotaging elections should carry the same punishment as treason. Of course, that is not the law at the moment, so it's being discussed. There's been talk about shifting elections to November rather than around February when it usually takes place. The new electoral bill, which is being discussed, has now passed second reading. But I suppose in the final analysis, the question is whether in the end it's going to, the National Assembly will vote to enact the new one that's being proposed. And I think the other thing that I wanted, of Bayelsa State, where news emerged Diri has resigned from the PDP, taking with him of the 17 elected. Also former Senator Bayelsa East APC in preference. And the question was going to be, considering the fact that Bayelsa has been a PDP state since 1999, but is now, to quote Senator Dickson, being donated free of charge to the APC, how much of a seismic development is all that? And in the final analysis, right, in the final analysis, he's still not back. So I'm afraid we're going to have to leave it there. I was going to ask him as a final question where his own political future lies and whether, although he's said he's not going to do it, whether he's considering jumping ship or is still in the PDP. But I think he has made that point. And I want to apologize for all the interruptions we had. It wasn't our fault. It was just technical problems that occur from time to time. And also to apologize to the senator and to thank him for his abiding patience. Senator Henry Seriaki Dickson, CON, who governed Bayelsa State for 8 years and who's a member of the Senate Committee on Electoral Matters, was talking to me on a very treacherous line there from Lagos. That's it for this edition of Arise Primetime. Join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja and Lagos. Bye-bye and thank you for watching.